So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to talk about the National Labor Relations Board saying that the company still has to let employees unionize even if it's closing down operations. So recently it declined to review a regional director's decision and direction of the election. But let's give a little bit of context here first. Raymore Construction is a construction company. They operate out of Portland. They seem to be pretty small. You can see the About Me here, but it seems to be a fairly small company in Portland, Maine. And they haven't bid on a steel project since July 1st of 2021, and the company president testified that he was getting out of steel work and that ultimately by November 2022, he'd no longer employ the steel workers in the unit. But, however, the International Association of Bridge, Structural, Ornamental, and Reinforcing Ironworkers Union decided to hold a union election, decided to organize, and so they did. They had an election. Now here's where the idea of a company getting out of the work matters. There is something called an imminent cessation of work. An employer can get a union representation petition dismissed if an imminent cessation of work is coming down in the prospective voting unit. Imminent cessation refers to circumstances where an employer's actions or conditions within the workplace pose an imminent threat of ceasing operations, thereby jeopardizing employees' ability to exercise their statutory rights, including unionization efforts and collective bargaining. In response to such situations, the National Labor Relations Board may take swift and decisive action, including seeking injunctive relief to prevent irreparable harm to workers' rights and maintain the integrity of labor management relations. Ultimately, this discussion is on the employer. The employer has to prove that imminent cessation is taking place. The Ironworkers Union pushed back and said that, well, the employer's decision to halt steelwork wasn't absolute certain because the company had gone back and forth on steelwork for several years. The president even said in his letter to the company that as it stands now, they would be halting the steelwork. So it wasn't clear enough for the National Labor Relations Board because as it stands now was somewhat ambiguous, even though they hadn't bid on a steel project since July 1st of 2021. And the problem ultimately is that the National Labor Relations Board has gone several different ways on this. And I've talked about it kind of ad nauseum because they made a decision in 1992 and in 2016 that contradict each other. In 1992, same type of thing. The labor union, which in this scenario was the pipe fitters union, decided to hold an election. The employer was shutting down. It was scheduled for March 6, 1992, and they were closing down the project altogether. The National Labor Relations Board, in this case, decided that imminent cessation took place. The labor union argued that basically that their projects were always late and that March 6th wasn't actually going to be the completion date, and as a result, imminent cessation isn't that imminent. In that case, in the National Labor Relations Board, they found in favor of the employer and found that the employer could shut down the operation or shut down the union at the union election. However, in 2016, which was JobWorks, Retro Environmental and Green JobWorks, and the Construction and Masters Laborers Local, which is the Laborers International Union of North America, it was a temp agency. Green JobWorks was a temp agency working for Retro. The site was shutting down certainly because school was starting. They had to reopen for classes in August, and they had no pending requests for additional employees from the Green JobWorks, and so as a result, they were shutting down. In this case, the National Labor Relations Board held that no, actually, this was not imminent. That there was opportunities in the future. There was no evidence that Green JobWorks and Retro Environmental were not continuing to work together, and as a result, it was not imminent cessation. And you see here, this is ultimately the problem, right? The National Labor Relations Board is an unelected board that reports, that is nominated by the president, and so it changes. 1992's board is significantly different than 2016's. And so because there is no actual law, there is only the National Labor Relations Act, and the interpretation of that act can vacillate between who is in power and who is the president. The employers don't exactly know where the line stands, and that causes a lot of problems. As a follow-up, the election took place on December 6, 2022, and the union won. NLRB has decided that they're not going to review the regional director's decision, which again favored the labor union. Marvin Kaplan, who's the only remaining Trump appointee on the board, pushed out against it, saying that the company took a lot of steps to say that the steel division work and didn't bid on further future projects. But ultimately, that's a clear sign to the employers that in these situations they need to be very specific if they are shutting down or if they're not. And ultimately, it seems like the president's email that the as for now or qualitative or protective language on the part of the as a part of the president is what ultimately led to this unionization. Let me know what you think about this in the comments down below, and also let me know what you think of the National Labor Relations Board. Is this something that is reasonable? Is it not? Give your opinion down below. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.